Joined for another conversation in our ongoing series with Chris Vanderveen, our 9 News Director of Reporting, our point man on COVID-19 coverage. Chris, we have been at this for nearly a year now. I have to say, looking at where the numbers are, looking at our slow and steady progress with vaccines, I'm feeling more optimism than I have in a long time.
It's funny you say that, Kyle, because I feel the exact same way. We've been through a heck of a year. Think about where we were just a year ago. It wasn't that long ago when we were sort of on the verge of this sort of like really discombobulating experience for all of us. And now here we are, having gone through hopefully the worst of it. And I'm beginning to think that we've gotten most of the people that we really need to get vaccinated. They've been vaccinated. So can we start to see that proverbial light at the end of the tunnel? I'm starting to see it, and I haven't seen that in a very long time.
And also, I just think any good news that we can glean during the depths of winter is such a win, considering the fact that we live in a cold climate, people are indoors and so forth, and it gives us a chance to really kind of stomp on it over the summer. So today, the state was saying that it's getting close to its 70% goal of immunizing people 70 plus. The state chose not to mandate priority for them, but clearly progress is being made there.
We're really, really close to that end game when it comes to getting 70% of the 70-year-olds and above vaccinated. That's a huge marker because when you think about it, that age group, we know now, we have the science to back it up, that age group is the most vulnerable to this virus. They're the ones most likely to end up in the hospital. They're the ones most likely to die from this virus. If you can successfully vaccinate a huge chunk of that population, you're going in a very, very good direction. The state said today we're about 95%. We're really close to getting their goal of, it's a confusing number. We talk about this all the time. We joke about this all the time, but they're 95% of getting to their goal of in terms of one dose for that group. Man, I'm having a hard time saying it, but you know what I'm saying. It's sort of a mess, but they're close.
Gotcha. One outstanding question that we hear from viewers a lot, this is a conversation I've had with my parents and my in-laws who are older and have been vaccinated, is they ask, well, I mean, I'm not going to get vaccinated until the summertime. Is it safe for me to be around them even though I'm at super low risk? And that's kind of an outstanding question. Can somebody who's vaccinated pass COVID, somebody who's not?
It's a really, really important question. As we move forward in all this, are people who are vaccinated potentially problematic when it comes to spreading the virus? Right now, the thought is probably not. But we want to get better than that. There was a recent study that came out of Israel that came out last week that talked about it's really not a good transmission. There doesn't seem to be good transmission between people who are vaccinated to those people who are not. I'd like to know more than that. I know a lot of scientists want to know more than that because that really is a critical question as we move forward. I have that same question with my mother. My mother has been vaccinated now. I have not. Am I safe to see her? I know I'm not going to transmit it to her, but could she potentially transmit it to me? That's a really important question to ask because it fits into that sort of like scenarios that everybody's asking themselves. Am I safe around the people that I love?
Between mid-Friday afternoon when we're having this conversation and when somebody might see it on YouTube or elsewhere, the FDA may make its emergency use authorization decision on the J&J vaccine. Emergency use authorization is the hardest thing for me to say these days. But I know there's some hesitancy from some folks about that vaccine because it's less efficacious than the other vaccines on the market. Folks need to know it's still a heck of a lot more effective than, say, the flu shot.
Yeah, let's dumb it down for everybody, including myself. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is super duper good at preventing you from getting really, really sick or dying. Think of it that way. It's extraordinarily good at that. And for that reason, it is incredibly valuable in all of this. We shouldn't overthink it. I was actually having a conversation with my doctor today about this very subject. And his thought process is this. If you're in line to get whatever vaccine you can get that vaccine. It's going to protect you. We have science to back it up, whether it's the Moderna, whether it's the Pfizer, whether it's the Johnson & Johnson. All three of those are incredibly good at the most important thing you can think about when it comes to the virus itself, getting really sick and potentially dying from it. We know all three are really, really good at preventing all of that.
Chris, where are we on variants? I know that is the looming concern of a lot of scientists and researchers who worry about a wave of variants, especially if they prove to be more resistant to our vaccines.
So we got a number. I looked at the number yesterday. It was around 100, just a shade over 120 variant cases have been identified in Colorado. It is still a very, very small number, and it's not something that, I mean, look, the epidemiologists in the state are worried about it. They believe that particularly the variant that comes from the UK is likely to be the most dominant strain in Colorado come late next month. But if the numbers are still very, very low as they are right now, that's a good sign. Eric France, doctor with the state of Colorado, said today on a call, he said, we're at about 1 out of every 200 people in the state are infected with COVID, and an even smaller, much smaller percentage of that are actually infected with the variant. So it's not good at transmitting. Even though it's more transmissible, the numbers just aren't there to help keep it going. And ideally, it stays that way. The numbers are still very small. They're getting better at identifying it, not perfect, but if it starts to grow out of hand, you're going to hear about it relatively quickly.
So, Chris, we're moving from the stages of vaccination where a lot of the people in those groups are very concerned about COVID, really want the vaccine, into some stages where there might be more general apathy. People are open to the vaccine. They don't really feel like they have to get it. And I know you're particularly concerned about those folks running into the same roadblocks that the people who desperately wanted the vaccine ran into and powered through.
Yeah, think about it this way, and that's an excellent word, roadblocks right now. People who are over the age of 70, there's been a number of roadblocks for them getting the vaccine, but they're highly incentivized to get the vaccine because of what we talked about before. They're more likely to end up in the hospital. They're more likely to die because of this virus. They have a large incentive to get a vaccine. Once we start talking about people who are younger than 70, particularly when we start talking about people in their 20s and 30s who are not highly incentivized to get the vaccine, we have got to come up with a system that allows them to get the vaccine quickly. They've got to be able to get it at sort of a moment's notice. If they want to get it at that moment, they've got to get it. They can get it. And the problem that I see is if there are the roadblocks that exist now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, when more age groups are eligible to get the vaccine, you're going to run into problems because we don't just need 70% of 70-year-olds to get the vaccine. We need 70% really of everybody to reach that sort of herd immunity stage. And if people in their 20s and 30s and 40s aren't buying into the system that we have at that point and they don't get the vaccine, it puts us one step further away from getting to herd immunity.
And you know, one thing that I've told some people who have kind of expressed not really skepticism, but more ambivalence about the vaccine, they've either had COVID or they're not really worried about it. They're not sure they're going to go through the hassle of the vaccine. I tell people, get it for the business down the street that needs to be able to open back up when the weather is nice. You know, get it for your favorite restaurant or bar or brewery or whatever else, because you're going to help those people out if we're able to have a grand reopening come spring.
It's a really good way of putting it. I sort of look at getting the vaccine myself as not as much as protecting myself, even though that is a byproduct getting the vaccine. I view it as I'm protecting the people around me as well. I essentially, once you get vaccinated, you put a wall around you that even if the virus comes close to you, it can't get past that wall and infect the people, your loved ones around you, the people that you see at the grocery store, the people that you see at restaurants. All those people who may not have been vaccinated yet, it protects you, it protects them from you. And so think about it this way. It's sort of that idea that honestly, I'm in a position where I would much rather get the virus myself than knowing that I gave it to somebody else. And that's the reason why when I'm eligible to get a vaccine, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I think that's the case for a lot of people roughly our age. You know, if we were to get it, you know, I think we'd probably say, oh, stupid me, what did I do? But the thought of giving it to somebody else is just like that would weigh on you forever. Hey, speaking of, I hadn't told you this, I signed up this week. Like I got on the wait list. I thought, you know, what the heck? I mean, so I'm general population. I'm phase 3 this summer, but you can sign up now if you want. You're not cutting in line because you just don't check any of the priority boxes and they kind of put you at the end. I'll say I went through all the signups for my county. One of them was technically confusing enough that if I was not somebody who lived on the internet all day, I might have backed out and said no to that one. So I totally get where people are coming from in that respect. But at the same time, it's exciting just to know that for every one of us, it's not hopefully that far off.
We've been through this for a year. We got a few more months to go. If all goes well, we got a few more months to go. That's a big deal.
Yeah, well, in a way, I kind of look at it like tickets to the Great American Beer Festival. You can line up real early if you want, but you're getting in at the same time with this whole other group of people. You know what I mean? Like Phase 3 is going to open when it opens, but it is kind of fun to get in line just to say that the event is coming. Chris Vanderveen, appreciate your time as always. I am glad that as we approach the 1 year mark that we have some shared optimism. I hope people across Colorado start to feel it as well.
Agreed.